to the Garioch Area Committee today. Please note that the meeting will be recorded and published online for public viewing after the meeting. Councillors should only use their microphones when invited to speak and should remain muted at all other times. Members should use their video for the whole meeting if their connection allows. If members wish to speak on any point, please use the hands up function in the Teams meeting and I will bring you in at an appropriate time. Please do not come in during items unless I invite you to do so. So first of all, Alison, can you take the sederant, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Councillor Ewanson.
Present.
I have apologies from Councillor Bailey. Councillor Gifford.
Present.
Councillor Grant.
Present.
Councillor Georgie.
Present.
Councillor Keating.
Present.
Councillor Launchy.
Yes, President.
Councillor Mason.
Present.
I have apologies from Councillor McHale. Councillor Miller.
Present.
Councillor Payne.
Present.
Councillor Reid.
Present.
Councillor Smith.
Present.
Councillor Walker.
Present.
And Councillor White.
Present.
Oh, present, perfect. I know that she's got other things on today, so thank you very much for that. In terms of officers, we have Anne Overton, the area manager, and Jill Joss, senior solicitor. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Just like to wish Councillor Bailey all the best in his recovery and hope to see him soon, but take care. Declaration of members' interests. Could councillors use the hands up function to indicate if they wish to intimate an interest or provide a transparency statement? Councillors should provide the item number, the nature of the declaration and whether or not they will leave the meeting. No indications there. In that case, we can move on to the equality statement. In line with the Council's legal duty under section 149 of the Equality Act 2010, do the committee agree that in making decisions that they shall have due regard to the need to eliminate discrimination, harassment and victimisation, advance equality of opportunity between those who share a protected characteristic and persons who do not share it, and to foster good relations between those who share a protected characteristic and persons who do not share it. And also where an integrated impact assessment is provided to consider its contents and take these into account when reaching this decision. Is that agreed?
Agreed.
Okay.
Agreed.
Exempt items today. It's proposed to take items 9, 10, 11 and 12 in private. Can we agree, please?
Agreed.
Agreed.
We'll then
Agreed.
move on to the minute of the last meeting. It's being considered for accuracy and only by councillors who were present at the last meeting. Is that meeting minute approved? Oh, Councillor Grant, please.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I mean, it was just for the sake of accuracy. I mentioned that, Councillor Launchy, of course, left for item 7, the men's shed, but it doesn't mention that and that the sederant. It was just that small correction. Thanks.
Okay.
Okay, so
It's in under declaration of
It is.
members' interests.
but I do usually put if they've left the meeting room or the meeting, I usually put it under the item as well. So he's quite correct in terms of consistency. I will make that amendment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, I just noticed it mentioned somebody else had left. So yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Item 4, statement of outstanding business. I'll hand over to Alison.
Yes, Chair, really not much to add in this one. Mary Stewart is now responsible for arranging the meeting under item 3. So I know that Anne has been in contact with Mary, and as soon as I know a date for that, I will update councillors, obviously, and you will receive that through the system. But other than that, no further updates, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Any comments or questions from members? No. Okay, in that case, we can move on to item 4. 5, sorry, yeah. I'm on the right item, I just called it item 4, which is a report to Garioch Area Committee from the Education and Children's Services. It's their year-end performance monitoring report 2025-26 in brackets council priorities. So it's related to the priorities. And the officer presenting, is it Anne-Marie Davis McLaren?
It is,
You're
Chair.
there.
Good morning.
Okay, so welcome, and
Thank
I'll
you.
hand over to you.
Well, thank you, Chair. Good morning, committee members. So I'm here on behalf of Lawrence, and he's asked me to present this report and to talk to some of the key points, and indeed to try to answer any questions that you may have. I have had some engagement with my heads of service colleagues, so I should have some information to feed into the discussion. There will almost certainly be some things that I don't know about, and in which case I will revert back to committee and work through Alison to provide you with the information you may request. So this report provides the year-end performance overview for education and children's services within the Geary area, and it's aligned to the council plan for 2024 to 2029 and the strategic priorities therein. So I suppose overall performance is broadly positive and broadly stable, with 60% of measures meeting or exceeding targets. A smaller number are just off target or below expected levels. The report highlights strong outcomes for children and young people, particularly very high attainment in numeracy and improving literacy, very strong foundation apprenticeship completion rates well above the target, and high levels of positive post-school destinations. There are also encouraging trends in attendance and sustained partnership working, including in early years provision and pathways into employment and training. Members will, though, see areas where performance requires further focus, particularly participation and membership levels within Live Life Aberdeenshire services and the estate condition across some facilities. So overall, the report demonstrates continued progress against our priorities while clearly identifying where further improvement and targeted action are required. So on that basis, I'm very happy to take any questions that you may have regarding the content or indeed the wider service scope. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from members? Councillor Walker, please.
Thank you. I just had one question about the positive destinations, and if there's any reason for Inverurie Academy figures to be down by 5.6%? Anything coming through that you can see?
So I had thank you. I had a discussion with Susan and indeed with Kay MacDonald, and of course they've gone through a process of performance reviews with each of the academies. So this was discussed. So it is true, Inverurie Academy has seen a sort of notable decline in positive destination outcomes, with an increase of 3 to 15 young people not in a positive destination. So I suppose the key drivers behind that would be the cohort complexity. There are higher numbers of pupils with ASN relative to 2023, broadly consistent with 2024. There's an increased prevalence of mental health challenges, including an increase in the number of young people who are unable to leave home. We're seeing persistent non-attendance. There are a number of young people who are not regularly engaging with schools despite a sort of remote learning offer and tutor support. So the tutor support, the remote learning offer enables limited qualifications, but doesn't really sustain that progression onto positive destinations. We are seeing some system capacity pressures. So there's a reduced SDS capacity, Skills Development Scotland's capacity, and that's impacted that early engagement with the highest risk pupils. And I guess that timeliness of the career pathway planning, that's, really important to sort of intervene at the right point in children's thinking and progression through the school system. And that more limited capacity is impacting on our ability to do that. We had an increased S5 leaver cohort, so significantly more young people left in S5 than previous years, 20 more than in 2024, 30 more than in 2023. And this has materially impacted the overall positive destination percentage. So since the data capture that informed this report, at least 4 of those 15 have progressed into employment, training and further education. And I suppose for reassurance, the senior leadership team at the school has a detailed knowledge of each of these affected young people and is working with multi-agency partners to secure appropriate pathways. So The data does look disappointing and absolutely raises some questions, but I suppose the key reassurance to committee is that the school know about it. They're working with partners more widely to look at pathways. There are reasons for it, but nobody's been complacent. Thanks.
Okay,
That's
thank you.
really helpful. Thank you.
Just before we move on, that was my question as well, but all these factors are understandable in terms of Inverurie Academy, but would these same things not be in play at West Hill and Kenny?
So, Chair, not necessarily. So, yes, those wider systemic drivers, and I suppose more broadly, we are seeing an increase in additional support needs and mental health challenges in young people. But I think the particular data sets around Inverurie reflect the particular complexity of that cohort of young people. And it can vary quite significantly year on year. And we see that sometimes in our attainment data. You know, you will see variances year on year, and it largely depends on that group of young people. So I was trying to do some very quick mental maths and work out how old this group of young people would have been during the COVID pandemic. And I think that these would have been the people making the transition. They would have been the pupils making that transition from primary into academy, or certainly in the initial stages of the academy. So, you know, maybe these are the elements that we're seeing come through in terms of mental health challenges and perhaps that disruption to learning. So, but that's me looking at anecdotal evidence. I wouldn't quote me on that. But I think what we are seeing is there's a particular group of young people at Inverurie that the school are very aware of, and it may well look different again next year. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Grant, please.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Anne Marie. I mean, that was my question as well. The contrast in the figures did stand out quite obviously to me. So my one question that's left, it was just about the primary school figures for numeracy and literacy. So I was just looking at the various changes from the previous year in comparisons to the national average. But it was interesting that the percentage for literacy, 72.7%, and it's 80.6% for numeracy. But why is there such a difference between the two? You would kind of think the metrics are designed so that you would expect the same sort of target range. I mean, even in terms of the national average, 74.5% versus 80.3%. Is there any difference in the way the metrics are constructed that you tend to see this distinction? Because I would have thought probably numeracy rates wouldn't be as high as literacy, but it's the other way around. Thank you.
So thank you, Councillor Grant. So I suppose I've got some information here to share, and I can draw on my experience from quite a long time ago of working in and around that assessment and moderation cycle. It's not unusual to see increased attainment or indeed confidence around the recording and reporting of attainment for numeracy. And we all know in numeracy, the answer is right or wrong. And there's much more subjectivity and much more of a professional judgment in terms of determining attainment. So I think what the team would indicate is that what we're seeing is quite high for literacy and indeed numeracy. We're seeing quite high achievement at the early level. So if you want, that's 3 to 4 year olds moving into primary school. It's at the earliest level of the curriculum for excellence. And we're seeing this drop at the first level, as you've identified. And then we're seeing an improvement at second level and level 3, which is S3 and beyond. So it's that transition between early and first level, and you'll have heard a lot about play pedagogy, learning through play. These are new things that have been embedded, and you know, as we change the way that we approach learning and teaching in our I'm going to call them infant classrooms. So along that, we need to look at the assessment and moderation cycle. So we have identified moderation at that first level. So moderation would be, of course, when teachers look at, you know, the work and the output, the achievements of young people, children, and look across the piece to see, you know, how they are measuring up, I guess, both within the class, across the school, and indeed across the cluster. It's a system-wide weakness at first level. Whereas the work that we've been doing at second level, that moderation work is already showing those improved outcomes. So much about underachievement is around under reporting or under recording. And that comes through teacher confidence and teacher judgment. So it's writing that is the main driver behind the lower literacy performance. And we're getting, you know, from some of the evidence from inspection. So in your context through Crombie and Strathburn, a need, the inspectors are identifying a need for more extended writing and stronger moderation. So stronger teacher to teacher peer collaboration to look at, you know, where children are in their learning and be confident that when we say a young person's achieved level, you know, first level or level 1 in Crombie, that we're getting the same recording for Strathburn. I mean, both those schools were graded good for 3.2, so that's learning, teaching and assessment, but there were clear steps and it was around that writing. So the service are absolutely responding to this, and I suppose I'm thinking back to when I was involved as a QIO, which would have been pre-pandemic, and at that point we were really focusing on level 2. So obviously that's borne fruit, and then there's more confidence in the system around that. But at the moment, it's that systemic weakness at first level. So we now have education support officers who are in post and they're leading that moderation work, and they're providing targeted support using the ACEL data, you know, the Achievement Curriculum Excellence Level data. There's a specific writing program that's been focused in on first level writing, and it's currently targeted at the lowest attaining schools. So the schools within Garioch that are participating are Port Elphinstone, Oyne, and we're looking at bringing Kellens into that mix. And the plan is to scale the learning from that program across all schools. So we know where the weakness is. It's not necessarily a weakness in how children are learning and their achievement in their learning. It's a systemic weakness in how we are capturing and recording that. But beyond that, I will need to take more expert advice. Thank you.
Well, that's great. Thank you for the very informative reply. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Keating, please.
Thanks very much. And hi, Anne-Marie. Yeah, I think pretty much many of my questions have been captured already, but you know, I'll think of a supplementary or two. My normal initial complaint, and it's not really directed to you, but we have 1.2.2, the recommendation says please come back every 6 months. Every 6 months we have this as a recommendation. Can we please just make it an evergreen recommendation and not have to see it on the front of the paper? That's just a thing for me. Page 23. Okay, so Live Life Aberdeenshire had basically every quarter of the year had a decrease. You know, what's the view on why that is, and what can we do about it? Is the first question. And then on page 24, there's quite a few statistics, but it says 96.9% was the highest result that Garioch's achieved. And then it goes on just in the same sentence to say, and 97% is the 3-year average. So I'm not sure how, if the highest is 96.9, 97 can be the 3-year average. That seemed a bit odd to me. I think my colleagues, I picked up on the Inverurie 5.6%, and I think you've resolved the issues. But what I think I would observe for all of us is you are talking about 4 or 5 pupils as being the thing that's swinging the numbers. And we could see from the previous year that Inverurie was 2% higher than everybody else. So I guess we just have to accept that when we're dealing with such small numbers, we can have quite big variations at the margin. That's just an observation.
Yeah.
And thank you very much for the literacy response, because that was concerning me, that even if we're better than Aberdeenshire, we were, you know, 2-3 percentage points off Scotland, and that's a mixed population, and we're running below them. So have we been able to compare across, are we able to go to any other authorities through, you know, local government, the benchmarking family, the framework, and see that, are they doing their moderation differently? And or have we actually ruled out that there is some technique that somebody is using that we could bring into Aberdeenshire that might improve things? Because very much your answer was, and I accept it's an element, that this is all round about moderation and underreporting by the individual teachers. but that seems quite systematic across Aberdeenshire for what is quite a large population. And that's a lot. Thank you.
Okay.
So thank you. In terms of, I wasn't able to get to the bottom of the discrepancy in the data you said around the averages. So I will have to come back to you with a specific answer from a specific officer. What I would say is that if there's been some inconsistent rounding up across the different numbers, it could have resulted that way, but I can't say for any degree. In terms of LLA, so I had a discussion with Alan, who advises that membership is a combined sort of library and leisure centre, and it's an average across the two. So the paid for leisure centre members at West Hill and Inverurie have maintained, with growth seen in Q4 between January and March, as the new year joiners turn back to health and fitness. I suppose that's a phenomenon we'd all be familiar with. The drop in average members is primarily from the library service. So membership is measured in active members, i.e. the number of people who use it regularly, the library regularly. And we have seen a drop in Q4 with some signs of recovery in March. Visitor numbers increased in Q4 despite poor January weather, although remained 5.48 below the same period last year. So notably, there have been operational challenges with the heating at West Hill affecting use, but this has been resolved, and there's been sort of extensive exploratory work and specialist contractors brought in, and Alan would like to extend his thanks to Emma and Plunkett and property and PNFM teams for their support there. Improvements in participation reflect sort of strengthened staffing with only one vacancy remaining and a full service restored at Inch Library. Notable growth was also seen at Newmacca and Kintore, driven by consistent staffing, court programmes and school visits. So further outreach is planned, and therefore Geary is well placed to build a bit of momentum in Q1 and try and convert the visits into active memberships. So in terms of how we work as a system beyond the sort of boundaries of Aberdeenshire, there's a lot of work. There are professional networks that I know that Susan and Kea are heavily involved in. I would be involved, for example, in parallel memberships around resourcing and personnel. It strikes me that the assessment and moderation cycle, or the idea of moderation, is a perennial challenge. There will never be a fix. It's sort of the painting of the Forth Road Bridge. As the system churns, as people move, teachers move through that system, as the curriculum changes, as the expectations and outcomes, so the experiences and outcomes become refined. It's an inevitable part. So just as soon as you fix second level, you're probably onto first level. So the service or the organisation as an education authority, we work through our quads, around self-evaluation. There will be discussions about both the outputs and the outcomes of our quality improvement activity, but also the process and methodology. So we learn all the time from other local authorities. There are ADES groups. There's I can't remember what it stands for, the CAC. I'm going to say curriculum and qualifications, but also the PIN, the performance and improvement network. So that there are different ways that we work together. There will also be programs for teachers to work together. And there's a couple of national programs that teachers, not just head teachers, but teachers participate in. But like many things, the funding for that's under pressure. So I suppose the curriculum is a living thing. It evolves and is designed and developed and delivered at a local level, within a framework, but local level. So therefore, there's always going to be a challenge around how we maintain consistency and moderation, even within a school. But that's what you want to see. Within a school, teachers sit together and work together. Within a cluster, there are mechanisms for doing that. At an authority and beyond level, there are also mechanisms, but I can ask Susan to provide some more specifics. That's my understanding.
That's fine. I mean, no, I say appreciate we've got you, Susan. So I will leave it there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Gifford, please.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. And morning, Anne-Marie. Back to the figures on numeracy and literacy again. I hear what you're saying about the challenges of getting good statistical information back from all teachers in the same way, and that clearly is a challenge, and you explained that very well. Thanks for that. But I've said this for many years when we see these figures. We're seeing that 80%, 72.7% are achieving, but that means that the best part 20% and 25% and more are not. And that's pretty much at a national level as well. And we seem to be okay with that, which I have always had a bit of a challenge with. And we know it's a challenge because we put resource into our secondary schools to help some youngsters with their reading and writing and their numeracy, so they can then learn all the things they want to learn at secondary schools. I would have thought when we see these figures, we would then have some narrative saying, here's what they are and here's what we're doing about it. We surely can't be content that 25% of our pupils aren't achieving what we hope they should.
Yes, I mean, I think that's a very fair reflection, Councillor Gifford, and I suppose that's the challenge for the service, that continuous drive to improve, the continuous drive to expect more from our teachers, to deliver more for our pupils. But I think that those sort of proportions have remained quite consistent over time. So I remember, looking at sort of data sets, that there's a stubborn cohort that, and one of the big areas of focus, of course, is to what extent that correlates with, children, experience a sort of poverty-related attainment gap. But no, those are fair observations. Thank you.
So can I get yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. We have been seeing this for a while, and there has to be a point in the entire system. It's a national solution, really, because the national figures aren't that much different about what to do differently. If you keep doing the same thing, keep getting the same results, you're not happy with it. Something has to change.
Yes, and I wouldn't purport to be an expert on what that might be. Obviously, there's going to be a huge focus through the establishment of Qualification Scotland and looking at that sort of senior phase qualification framework. I wouldn't in any way want to say that people won't be looking as carefully at the broad general and at primary. But there's always risks, I think, as the attention of the system will be really focused in on the sort of qualifications framework higher up the education tree. Let's hope that there's going to be an equal level of attention at the lower levels.
Well, I would have put it that way around. I would have said the attention should be at the lower levels, and then it comes out at the end as a better result. I would have thought that's pretty blindingly obvious, but we shall leave that to those down the road to think about these things in darkened rooms.
Okay, thank you. It's quite interesting, that the idea that the emphasis might be on the sort of end stages of school education, because the emphasis for years has actually been on early years education, because there was evidence to show that if you had an impact then, that's what made the difference all the way along. Councillor White, please.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. My main question was on the positive destinations, which you've answered very thoroughly, and I'm very reassured to know that the young people that haven't yet achieved a positive destination are still being supported and known about. So that's very reassuring. And the Live Life Aberdeenshire part, I was going to ask some questions on, but then I recalled that we had a very good informal session with the service recently to understand the dynamics of the Geary area and other facilities that are available and things that they're planning to do to work in partnership with other organisations as well. And I really just wanted to flag a couple of really good positives in the report. The foundation apprenticeships is brilliant, and also the volunteering that's going on in active schools and libraries. And I just wondered if there's anything that we as local councillors out in our communities in the Geary area can be doing to support and promote any of those opportunities. Is there work going on in letting people know that there's opportunities to volunteer, or for perhaps businesses to engage with foundation apprenticeship programmes and so on? So it's really just to make the offer that we're here, we're out and about in our community. So if there's anything we can do to support the service with these things, I'm sure we'd all be happy to do that.
Thank you, Councillor. I mean, absolutely. I'll flag that to both Susan and also Alan Ray, because obviously there's the active schools element to that, so that would be a very positive offer. Thank you.
Okay, moving on then, Councillor Reid, please.
Yeah, thanks so much, Chair, and thanks for the report. On page 26, it's re LLA. So you'd mentioned converting visits into active memberships was obviously one of your plans, etc. But I'm thinking this may be a bit hard when 1/3 of the buildings in Geary, 7 out of 21, are not satisfactory. Satisfactory would strike me as the bare minimum condition for buildings to be in. So can I ask you, which buildings in Geary are unsatisfactory? You mentioned that the Sir Arthur Grant building basically has been upgraded from a B to an A. So I'm assuming that B is satisfactory. What grades do the other 7 have, and what's the plan to improve them?
Through you, Chair. Councillor Reid, I'm afraid I don't know. I will get that data for you and we'll have that sent through.
Yeah, thanks so much. Could I possibly ask then that when we get reports like this is quite summarised. Can we have that kind of detail in it, please?
I'll feed that back to the team. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Another opportunity for that information does crop up when we have the informal sessions with the service as well, but there's more information. Councillor Grant.
Yeah, I was there at the
Oh,
last one. Do you recall those 7 buildings, Marion?
No, but I'm just saying that's another opportunity for getting the information directly.
I
Councillor
don't recall
Grant,
at that
please.
meeting there being any mention of 7 buildings being in this condition.
No, but we can ask that the next time, can't we? Councillor Grant,
Or
please.
when we get proper scrutiny like this, we
Yes.
can get that in the report.
Okay. Councillor Grant, please.
Thank you, Chair. One more question, Anne-Marie, just in the back of the Council Audit Committee meeting last week, where we looked at local government benchmark results for the previous year. And one thing it drew attention to was attainment levels for the lowest 20% of SIMD pupils, which was below target and deteriorating. I know it's not specifically highlighted in this report, but is there anything that you can maybe add to that, perhaps with a, in the context of the Geary area? Any update by way of, plans to try and ameliorate this? Thank you.
Well, I suppose in general terms, that would be a key focus for the service. There's an extensive programme of work. We have obviously the Scottish Attainment Challenge, which is different but similar, if you will, to PEF. It's the Scottish Equity Challenge is the funding that comes into the centre, and that is used to fund a number of those posts, one of which was referenced earlier, looking at the literacy and numeracy education support officers. So that funding is targeted at closing that attainment gap. I have not reviewed the report that you're referring to, so it will probably be inappropriate for me to make too much comment on it, but what I will ask is for an overview from the service about any specific work that's ongoing in the Geary area regarding the poverty related attainment gap. What I would say is a rising tide floats all boats. The work that is undertaken in those schools where we have targeted programs around literacy, particularly around writing, will be absolutely focused in on supporting those children who are perhaps experiencing some barriers to learning, whether those are related to additional support needs, but also related to sort of broader contextual factors. So they will always be at the forefront of a teacher's thinking process. But it is an intractable issue that we've seen a decade plus of focus in that area. And it's one of those perennial challenges for the education system, but I'll get you some specific information. Thank you.
That would be great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Can I just ask, it's a kind of a sort of overarching observation, but going back to Councillor Gifford's point about the sort of 20% who aren't achieving the levels they need to be at the stage they're at. We're only measuring in national testing literacy and numeracy, but the curriculum for excellence is a really cluttered curriculum with all sorts of things in it that didn't used to be there. And then we still expect to get the same results in literacy and numeracy, which aren't focused on in the same way. So I don't know what we do about that.
Chair, I think so the literacy and the numeracy elements can be delivered through all of those different curricular areas that you've described, and I'm not going to pass comment on the, I suppose, the growth and scope and of the curriculum over recent years. But you're right. I think teachers experience a significant degree of pressure delivering the full curriculum. There are, though, opportunities always to teach literacy and numeracy through those, those subject areas, whether, for example, if you're looking at a personal social education and the development of poster or promotional materials to discuss an issue, relating to young people's mental health and well-being, looking at, in history or social studies, looking at ways, to represent different viewpoints and write discursive essays on particular themes. So every subject provides a vehicle for literacy and numeracy learning and development. But obviously that takes a skilled practitioner and it takes confidence in the classroom to do that. So I think your observations are very fair, but I would provide some reassurance that, we need literacy and numeracy to interact with almost any area of learning, and that's how that will be delivered.
Yeah, and that's, again, just highlighting the importance of what do we do about that 20%. I mean, I was particularly shocked to find out that children were coming up from primary school into secondary school who barely had early level reading skills. At some point in the primary stages, that should have been addressed before they hit secondary one. I found that quite alarming that was happening. But there's obviously issues and things that need to be looked at, but overall the picture for Garioch is comparatively good. But we still need to remember those who aren't managing to achieve the levels, and focus on some of those to see if we can better equip them. Any further questions or comments? Nope. Okay, right, so I'll take you back to the recommendations. Back a page. Page 18. Okay, so it's acknowledge and consider progress made during the 2025-26 toward achieving the council plan priorities 2024-2029 referred to in Appendix 1. And then again, it's the instruct the Director of Education to report back on a 6-monthly basis.
Yeah, I mean, we can take that away. I appreciate Councillor Keating's because technically the full council have already agreed the performance reporting schedule anyway, so it's an additional instruction. So we can just take that away and have it.
And obviously we've got elements of areas. Well, I've got comments, but I've also got areas where information has to come back to the committee. So I will get those details.
Particularly, I think the one that we needed was the Councillor Reid's query about the LLE facility.
We have that, but we have other things as well. So I will get those noted and they will be reported back through the system.
Okay, thank you. So thank you, Anne-Marie.
Thank you very much, and I wishing you good morning. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you. Right, we can now move on to item 6. Sorry, I'm taking a minute to get my papers up to date because I've got an extra step to put in with something that's not working properly. Item 6 is, again, it's a report, but this time it's from Environment and Infrastructure Services. It's their performance report for Q3 and Q4. And the officer presenting today is Anna Thompson. Welcome, Anna, and thank you for being able to attend today in the absence of Alan Wood. I shall just hand over to you to take us through the report.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, members. I am, as you say, pleased to report the Environment and Infrastructure Services performance update on behalf of Mr. Wood this morning, covered in Q3 and 4 of 25-26, and to set this in context of performance earlier in the year and of our previous reporting cycles. Overall, the position remains stable in Geary. In the current reporting period, the majority of indicators are on target, with 8 indicators performing well and within target, which is broadly consistent with the first half of the year, where 8 indicators were also on target and where performance was strong across most areas. Looking across the year as a whole, we're not seeing significant deterioration in performance. Instead, the position reflects a continuation of the patterns already reported in quarters 1 and 2, alongside some normal variation at indicator level compared to 3 and 4 last year. In a sustainable economy, our performance remains consistently strong. Your planning related indicators continue to perform at or above target across the year, with only minor quarter-to-quarter variation in determination times. In Living Well locally, the position is more mixed. Housing indicators remain broadly positive. Tenant arrears and void rent loss continue to perform within target and compare favourably to the Aberdeenshire averages. However, this quarter 3 and 4 homelessness resolution times do remain above target in the current period and have shown an upward trend compared to earlier in the year. This reflects sustained demand pressures, including higher presentation numbers, rather than a single operational issue. Members will also note that we are now including the pound value alongside percentage measures for housing indicators, following a previous request from this committee. This provides a clearer view of the financial scale of performance alongside the percentage figures. In connected communities, the main area of continued challenge remains to be street lighting faults completed within 7 days, which is one of the consistently off-target indicators for this area. Performance here has reduced compared to earlier in the year and previous reporting periods. However, this does need to be understood within the context. Operational delivery is being managed through a risk-based approach, which you will have heard Mr. Mackay talk about quite regularly. From quarters 3 and 4, there were 46 and 29 repairs reported, with 22 and 14 being completed within 7 days respectively. The supporting operational data does also highlight wider service pressures in this area. For example, road defects remain at scale across the network, although there has been a marginal reduction in total outstanding defects compared to previous sessions. Similarly, street lighting services continue to manage a backlog of outstanding jobs, which is influencing response times in the short term. To highlight a positive of the work being undertaken by the roads team, as at spring 2026, 10,625 LED swaps have been completed within the Geary area. So in summary, the overall position is one that is generally stable performance with strong delivery in economic and planning indicators, continued positive performance in core housing measures, and a small number of areas where performance does remain under pressure, and these pressures are understood to be actively managed. Thank you, Chair. And whilst I may not be able to answer as skillfully as Mr. Wood, I am happy to take away questions and come back with any answers.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Any questions from members or comments on the report? Councillor Keating, please.
Okay. I'm not going to be trying to be too difficult here, Anna. It's really quite a simple one. There's 2 reds. The housing one is very thoroughly explained in the attachment. The street lighting one is somewhat more sparse in its explanation, and it is, however, the one that in our paper it says it's at alert, which is at a state beyond red, in which case, what does alert mean, and why don't we have a bit more of a narrative about what's happening on street lighting, given, and I'm sure we all have mailboxes that indicate that's a concern for across Aberdeenshire, well, across the Geary. So over to you.
Thank you, through you, Chair. In terms of the phrasing alert, it is the same as the RAG status, the red, amber, green. So it is potentially just a peculiarity of the phrasing. I will in future, I'll just put red. In terms of the narrative being provided, so the performance team, which works under me, are working towards creating a template to allow officers to fill in a bit more detail to sort of provide a framework. So going forward, I would hope that there would be more information for you presented in these reports. I would say equally, we are working to make more dashboards available. There is the members' info site, which does have a bit more detail in it as well. So going forward, I would absolutely hope to be able to provide a more thorough update on this report in terms of street lighting.
Thanks, Anna. And certainly, I don't know what you're doing with your template. It's for you to produce it, but to the extent it was able to allow officers to indicate, and then this is what we're doing, especially for the reds, that would be really valuable for the committee. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Grant, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Anna. My question was just about voids. The percentage of voids is at a pretty decent level. I'm just wondering if there's any scope for even further improvement on that, or are we kind of near the sort of natural limit? I do recall at a previous meeting there was mention of I'm trying to remember if it was in particular 1 or 2 bedroom houses that had quite a high turnover rate. Is that still an issue? Is there anything really more we can do to try and improve or reduce the turnover rate for such number of bedroom properties? Thank you.
Thank you again through you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Grant. I unfortunately don't have the answer to that, but I am more than happy to go away to the Specialist Housing Performance team to see if I can get any answers for you and bring them back.
That would be great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions or comments? No. So the recommendation on page 27 was to consider and comment on the progress in relation to environment and infrastructure services performance indicators relating to the Geary area. Not a lot of comments, but there's some further information to come back.
Yep, we'll get that noted and responded.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Anna.
Thank you, Chair.
Today. Okay, we'll now move on to item 7, which is our area budget. So the report is it's a Geary area committee budget, and the report's going to be taken by Anne Overton and Alison. Input, I think. Please.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, committee, for engaging and attending the informal session, which has formed the basis of this year's approach as set out in the report relating to Geary Area Committee budget. So we do have an allocated budget of 17,800. And as the appendices will tell you, we can do a lot with a relatively small amount of money within Geary. So the aim of the proposals in the paper is to present a proportionate, administratively efficient approach to the process and the determination of applications coming in, utilising appropriate officer delegation and required consultation with elected members. We do have an expanded but clear scope as set out in Appendix 1 in the criteria. And we also have a request for an allocation of money to place work. We've got a successful legacy in Geary of supporting place-focused work via community action plans and local place plans. We've now got to deliver 2 more place plans within Geary, and this type of allocation of budget is really helpful to enable us to do that, especially in places where we may need to do some real local work and for maybe and have to use village halls, etc. So we've got the budget allocation as set out in the report, and we also have, and I can't move forward without flagging up appendices 2 and 3, which sets out the varied and breadth of grants that have been made to Geary community groups. As ever, incredible work from them across Geary, huge effort from them too. So I'd like to thank them for their efforts and their achievements that they continue to deliver across Geary. We have got a great set of groups in Geary and they do great work. So I'm here to answer questions, and so is Alison. She has brought it all together in the report, and we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you, Anne. Any questions or comments from members? Councillor Keating, please.
Yeah, it's a good report, and as you say, Anne, I think it reflects the meeting we had before. to shape this, which I think is great. You asked us a question, I think at 3.4, should we keep this non-planned definition of appearances and maintenance of town and villages? My view would be a balanced no. I think you're quite correct, it's covered under one of the three. So almost why separate out something else? Appreciating that it maybe does direct, or in fact, it may be directing people to applying on that because we've separated it. It almost prioritizes it, which I don't think is what we should be doing. 3.6. So 2,800, I support what you're proposing here, but are you saying that you're anticipating that that will be to deliver the 2 place plans for West Hill and Kemney? That's what the intent is to spend it on. Okay.
Partially.
Partially, right. I guess 31st of December 26 to complete this spend. I understand the logic and I see what you're trying to do there. However, I am conscious, as we are here at the beginning of summer, that's 7 months' time, and you want the invoices and receipt. You want the invoices received by then. Is that credible? I just question.
Well, it's money is allocated to me in terms of I need to be able to deliver that. So I've put a fairly reasonable timescale. So, but yes, if we put it back out to the community, we would expect a short spend from them if we put it back out to the fund.
Okay.
So we've got we've delivered a considerable amount of place focused work using the area committee budget and would like to continue that legacy. It works very well. But yes, it's a deadline I've set myself in terms of that.
I would never query an officer who was to set her own deadline. That's fine.
Alison wants to.
Alison wants to be in.
I do, because although I can see the language in there, the allocation would need to be there, but actually there isn't a requirement to complete that spend by the 31st, but anything that's unallocated as at the 31st of December would then be put back in the pot. If there is any unspent stuff in addition to that, that would also go back in the pot. But it's really focusing in on having that period after the 31st of December. If there's nothing allocated for that fund, that it's not lost, that it's ploughed back into communities.
I am very happy you set us a timeline, and I'm happy it's challenging. That's okay. Then if I look at Appendix 1, page 40, it may just be the timing of things, but it says that the funding of the projects, the grants must be claimed in the financial year. And then I know we say further on that if you haven't actually produced an invoice, we won't send you the money. So I just wondered if that language is all consistent with the way we operate the fund. So it's just at the top of page 40. It's the third bullet on area committee budget applications. It's just a question. Does it fit with the rest of the wording? Because then I think on page 41, section 3, it says receipts must sent to the area manager's office by the 31st of March 27. And they're made retrospectively. So we're actually only sending the money on proof of spend. So I just ask you to think about that. I don't.
Yeah, I think it does, but we will clarify that. I mean, what we're saying there is we do encourage groups to get everything in by the end of February to allow the spend to absolutely take place. We would struggle to release the funds within the financial year if it was on the 31st of March 2027. So therefore, the work that is done by the area office is absolutely focused on the end of February. And then it would be a case of we would be seeking clarity as to where they were with that invoices coming through. So yes, in terms of the release from the budget, it has to be out before the 31st of March 2027. And we will work towards that by seeking everything by the end of February type thing.
And I say my comments are not anything querying how the area officer works. It's more, are we putting things in here that might disincentivize small groups from actually coming to ask for the work? And that's my only concern. And if you guys are working with them and the answer is no, then I'm fine. It's just that would be my only concern. My final point, and it's an observation, I guess, is on page 44, community action plans, total £3,000. Am I right in reading all of that went to Contour? Every line has Contour in it. Community action plans on page 44.
Yes, and that's the general cost of one cap.
Right,
is between 2,500 and 3,000.
Okay. So essentially that's one.
Contour was a significant piece of work because of the size of the settlement.
Indeed it is.
We've just broken it down.
That's fine. No, that's fair enough. I just wanted to get that clear. That's how much we need to find if we're going to do other community action plans to that level for the similar size communities.
Because King's Seat is coming to an end. We've got no interest yet from other communities, but we do have interest around local place plans, which can do both, and also looking at current community action plans and transitioning to local place plans. So we've still got some pieces of work to tie up with that, utilising our external provider.
Okay.
So we're always open to a discussion for communities coming in and seeing how we can help them.
I think you've answered all my questions. Thank you.
I suppose there's one piece, Chair, about we've never found that groups are, they're disincentivized to come in, but we also have groups that we can have a conversation with to come in a wee bit later. To be fair, I'm not expecting any kind of difficulty in spending this fund. But if we've got something that's later, we do have provision of financial regulations to carry over in exceptional circumstances to deliver whatever the group needs to deliver.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor White, please.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to reiterate Anne's comments on the strength of our communities and the groups that are working in the Geary area. It's just fantastic to see some of the work that's happened, and that these grants have been a catalyst for in the past. Support the approach, because we did have the informal session on it to give that sort of sense of direction. I just wondered, Anne, if you could say anything about, as you say, I don't think there'll be a difficulty in spending the money, but how is this going to be promoted? Apart obviously from councillors telling groups about it, but is this going to go out somewhere through the media channels? Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, Councillor White. Yes, we would ask that all councillors promote it to any groups and community councils that they attend. We also put it out. We've got an arrangement with our corporate comms team in terms of going out on the main social media channels. It's going to be uploaded to the website. All the links are there, and we also use our local channels and newsletter as well. This is a very well known fund. We've got people lining up to come into it already. So, but we also promote it at the same time. We remind people about the presence of Act 2, that we remind people about the presence of Common Good. And so that is all on one page. And so we do take a combination approach about reminding people which funds are there. And then we're also an area team that we're here, to support groups. If they've got projects want to come talk to us about, that we're here to do that. So that's part of our job and our remit. So we can actually see what's out there in terms of other funding pots and can we work with them to support to achieve their aims.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Grant, please.
Thank you, Chair. Apologies if this might have been covered. My internet's really bad today, so I'm sorry. Councillor Keating broke up when he was speaking, so he might have mentioned it. But my first question, it was just about 1.2 under delegated authority. How will funds be dispersed? Is it going to be in a first come, first served basis? I notice, there's reference to, consultation with the ward members, etc. But whereas in the past we had 2 6-month allocations, it wasn't quite clear how things would go this time. I didn't spot any distinction in funding between capital and revenue. Is that distinction being made this time, or is it understood that it wouldn't cover revenue costs? And just finally, for 25 to 26, the underspend of £610.22, did that go back into the area committee kitty, as it were? No. Okay.
I'll start with that question first. As you can probably tell, my face, unfortunately, it goes back into the big general pot to help with the management of the overall revenue budget. Finance whistle it all away if we can't spend it. We try to deal with that, and we got the majority over the line. Supported groups to get their invoices in, etc. I'll hand over to Alison. She's got probably more insight into in terms of the delegation. Well, it is going to have to be first come first served. We have had tranches in the past. If I get, for instance, we're completely overwhelmed, I'll have to consider whether I don't use that delegation and come back to committee with a report, for instance. So we were oversubscribed by a significant amount last year in our first tranche. for the main fund. So I'm expecting similar, but we're going to have to see how it goes, Councillor Grant. But yes, it will be first come, first served, and then we'll keep a very close eye on applications that have been successful, and if they're not going to achieve, we're going to ask them to make sure that they keep us in the loop on that and come back in and put it back out again. So Alison, with the other question.
Yeah, in terms of capital versus revenue funding, there is always a presumption that we don't fund revenue funding. The only exception that has happened in the time that has been consideration by the committee is where it's been start-up costs. It's not something that revenue funding is we accept. We may look again then on that basis if the committee wishes to do so to clarify that further in the criteria. That might be useful, but no, it is capital funds that we're looking at. It's getting projects done. It's not about recurring costs.
Yeah. I mean,
Thanks, Anne and Alison. I was just wondering if that needed to be a bit more explicit
Yeah,
in
we can
the,
do that.
you know, the paper that was given there. But that's great. Thank you.
Chair, so we don't completely rule out revenue. I think we clarified it's a presumption against revenue and preferences capital.
Okay.
Okay, yes. If you're happy to delegate,
yes,
to make
that clearer.
amendments and to clarify that in the guidance.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So no more questions and queries. Just to thank Anne and Alison and the rest of the team for the work that's gone into producing this. It is more difficult, more challenging now because we're not talking about such a large fund. So we need to be, I would say, trying to see the greatest benefit we can out of a smaller amount of money. So some publicity for our communities. Let them know that it's there. Okay, thank you. So moving on to our next report today, it's the Community Council's report. We're going to consider and agree the proposed allocations for Garioch Community Council grants for the period of 1st April 2026 to the 31st of March 2027. And again, it's Anne for this report.
Thank you very much, Chair. We've also got Alison as well as report author and our all-round Community Council experts. So this report sets out the proposed allocation to Garioch Community Councils. It's feel very familiar to you. It's the same approach as last year. It's something that Garioch have taken quite a specific decision on in terms of the main bulk of the money, in terms of their main award, plus the top up. We also have this year, we've included some more sort of information about activity around Community Council. So there's more of a general update coming through. And as with the previous report, you know, we've got 10 really active community councils in Garioch. They deliver in their communities, they support their local residents, and they very ably represent them. So thank you to all the community councils for the work they do. Alison and I are here to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from members? Not seeing any. I think it's very fairly divided, the area allocations. It works well for our community councils, and it reflects the way that community councils now function, a lot more digital input. Okay, so everybody happy to agree the proposed allocations? Yes?
Agreed.
Okay. Right, thank you. So that is actually the conclusion of the public business for today. So I can confirm that the public section of the meeting has now concluded and that the recording will be stopped. Thank you for your interest in this business. Members of the committee will now go on to consider exempt or confidential business without the press and public present. So we'll just pause for a minute till the recording goes off.